Will it be The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel or Schitt's Creek? Will it be Ozark or Succession? Well, it might be one of those, but you also need to focus on the other series categories like competition program, variety talk series, and limited series if you want to win your Emmy pool. Each of those categories is worth just as many points. And in the race for Outstanding Limited Series, we have Watchmen, which has 26 nominations. And then we have a whole bunch of other nominees that are missing from most categories. I find this race very similar to the drama series race last year, where you had Game of Thrones way ahead of everybody else. And then the second most nominated program is not even nominated in the series category. In drama series last year, that was The Handmaid's Tale, had the second most nominations, 11. This year, it's Hollywood in the limited series race, has 12. We've also got in the category Unorthodox, which has 8 nominations, Mrs. America, which has 10 nominations, and then rounding out the category are Unbelievable and Little Fires Everywhere, neither of which has many nominations at all. So, Kevin, is there any suspense in this race?
I mean, I would like to say yes, just for a healthy discussion, but when a show like Watchmen has like the number of nominations of the other 4 shows combined, then that's pretty much a sign that this is mostly over. I mean, all of those actors getting those nominations, with the exception of Tim Blake Nelson, which I still don't quite understand, but that's fine. Also, justice for Hong Chow. I 3 directing nominations, one of which we weren't really expecting. I mean, it got in pretty much everywhere it could possibly get in. And so when you look at what happened to the rest of these shows, I guess with the exception of Unorthodox, which I think probably outperformed most people's expectations, everything else just really flatlined for the most part. And so Watchmen has pretty much everything going for it, including social relevance. It's also on HBO, which is obviously the premium network for the Emmys, and just has an incredible cast led by an Oscar winner who they've rewarded 3 times at the Emmys. It's a done deal.
Yeah, I completely agree. Watchmen just, not only did it get 26 nominations, not only is it socially relevant, it's just incredible. I know our personal feelings should not factor into this, but I know very few people who weren't just blown away by everything, by how brilliantly written this show was. Its directing, its visuals, it's everything. There's no world in which this doesn't win, in my opinion. It's got nominations everywhere it needed to. It overperformed pretty much everywhere. And Kevin, as you said, even in the acting categories, where I was, at the beginning, I was most worried about those. Mrs. America, I still have in second because it did still get 10 nominations. It's also very relevant. It still got a writing nomination, but it underperformed. It didn't get directing. It didn't get in all the actors we expected. So, and then there's Unorthodox, which completely overperformed, in my opinion. I did not see this coming. I thought way early on in my dream world that Unbelievable would have some sort of a chance, but it missed for its 2 leads. It missed in directing. It missed in all below the line categories except for casting. So unfortunately, there's not much of a competition here, which is not bad because Watchmen is very deserving, but I wish we did have a bit more to talk about.
Yeah, I think the thing is that not only is Watchmen strong, but I think nothing really established itself as a clear challenger. I mean, Unorthodox and Mrs. America have a bunch of nominations, but each of them is also missing from several key categories. Mrs. America not getting directing, Unorthodox not getting editing, not getting sound, cinematography. It's, again, kind of like Game of Thrones last year, where it's, what is stepping up here to challenge it? I think we could also see Watchmen actually win more awards than any of these other shows have the potential for. I've got Watchmen winning 14 awards right now, which would make it the new record holder for most wins by a program in a single year. I think it could win 15 because I don't have Gene Smart. I think on its worst day, it wins 6.
Yeah, I think its biggest hurdle below the line is potential vote splitting in some categories where it has 3 nominations, but I think it might just be that behemoth that just where vote splitting barely hurts it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say Unorthodox is in second place for me just because, like I said, it did overperform, and it seems to me to be the only one that has, outside of Watchmen, that has a level of a passion to it, that it feels like more of the discovery show of the Emmys. You know, I mean, Mrs. America and Little Fires Everywhere and Unbelievable have been talked about for quite a while and had a lot of buzz going into all of those shows. And I feel like they all kind of underperformed. And so I'm just looking at the only other one that seems to have done well, even though it maybe did miss some below the line things. You know, it gets directing and writing, which is, you know, more than can be said for some of these others. So, yeah. And I do think Shira Haas, you know, if there is a real underdog support there, that who knows.
Yeah,
But this is Watchmen's.
I could see Unorthodox picking up like a lead actress, casting, and directing.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on to Outstanding Competition Program, where RuPaul's Drag Race has won the last several years. Before that, it was The Voice winning. Before that, it was Top Chef winning. And then we also have Nailed It and The Masked Singer coming into this category. Luca, you are not feeling great about The Masked Singer coming in. I think you have it in 5th. And can you explain yourself?
Oh, I probably have it in 5th because I think this category is so locked that everything that's after after first barely matters. Not to diminish these programs' achievement, but I don't know. I predicted The Masked Singer to, or I had confidence in it to get the nomination. There were a lot of factors working against it, but I just think it's just on its first nomination in this category, and I don't know if that's just way too early. That's really the only reason why I have it in 5th. I could probably change it and put it in 4th, but for me, it's just so easy to predict a winner in this category that my ranking afterwards barely matters. I think this is easily RuPaul's Drag Race win. There's no doubt in my mind.
Why is it so easy for you?
Well, it's won the last 2 years, and it took a while for it to win. It didn't win right away, and I think that's very important here. You know, The Voice kept winning, and people were wondering when it would finally pick up this award, and then it finally did 2 years ago, and I just think it's going to be here until the buzz just dies down. The buzz is still there. I just don't see how it loses at this point. I really don't.
All right, Kevin, is there a race in this category, or is it as clear-cut as limited series?
I suppose not quite as clear-cut in this case, but really with 10 nominations, you know, the fact that it's won the past 2 years, the fact that RuPaul himself has won 4 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, RuPaul's Drag Race is just like an international institution at this point, and there's all these spin-offs, and it's just its own thing beyond even what it used to be. And so I think it just keeps growing and growing. And, you know, as far as the other competitors here, like maybe The Masked Singer just on buzz, you know, the idea of like a new show actually coming in here and doing something, but I believe it only has one other nomination. So I don't know if it really has like that much support there. I mean, Top Chef and The Voice at least have some level of like other categories are nominating it, but I'd love to see Nailed It as well, just because I love Nicole Byer and she's hosting the Creative Arts Emmys, and I'm excited for that. But I don't know. I just feel like this is yet another case of too big to fail for RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah, I've got The Masked Singer in 2nd, just because it's something new. It's
Right.
you know, we haven't seen it lose before. Maybe it just needed to get that nomination in order to win. because it has broken through in this category. It seems like there might be a level of passion for it. You know, a lot of people watch the show. But yeah, RuPaul's Drag Race has tons of nominations. I feel like it has a narrative. So yes, I'm not holding my breath about this category, but I would not be surprised if RuPaul actually lost host this year, as I feel like the buzz for the show has been softening a little, and there might be an outlet in that category. All right, so we'll hop on over to Ascending Variety Talk Series, where John Oliver has won the last several years. He's up against Trevor Noah and Stephen Colbert, and Jimmy Kimmel and Samantha Bee. And James Corden this year fell out after getting tons of nominations and wins the last several years for so savvily playing the Emmy game. But the Emmys have moved on, so I'm wondering if they will also be moving on when it comes to the win. What do you think, Kevin?
I think that is a distinct possibility, and that is why I have The Daily Show with Trevor Noah as my winner prediction. Because first of all, it is increasing in nominations. It got an additional 3 nominations this year, got into directing and writing for the first time. So clearly on the rise there. And I think this is a prime example of a late night host really excelling in these times of 2020 and adapting their show in a very special way to, you know, being virtual and speaking to our times. And he's gone viral several times this year for a lot of his shows. And yeah, I do sort of suspect that they might be looking for something new in this category. I mean, it's hard to go against John Oliver, just like it was hard to go against Jon Stewart after all of those wins. He got like 8 or 9 in a row at one point. And so it's hard to be like, oh, maybe this will be the year they do something different.
Yeah.
And then here we go at the ceremony and it's just John Oliver again. And it's like, well, of course, it always was going to be that. But I don't know. I think something about how much different this year has been that I do feel like maybe voters will want to shake things up a little bit, at least in this category.
Yeah, I completely agree. I have Trevor Noah winning. Of course, the safest.
You do?
I do. I think the safest option would be to go with John Oliver, just because he is the 4-time reigning champ, and they pretty much held on to all of their nominations. So there's that as well. But if the long-standing champ is going to be dethroned any year, then it has to be this one. The circumstances are so different. The feeling is different. As you already mentioned, Kevin, Trevor Noah, The Daily Show, it's expanded in nominations. It got writing and directing, and it got editing and sound mixing. So it's really expanding. And just the coverage during not only the pandemic, but this entire year, the political commentary, I think it's all just been very impressive, and it's just made the rounds. And I think after you've won 4 times, or many times, I think at one point, you're just going to stop winning. And I think we're not talking about that category, but variety sketch series, that might happen there too. I mean, I just feel like the sentiment or the feeling this year is just so dissimilar to any other year. And any other year, these long-standing champs would continue their reign, but I think they might go in a different direction this year.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. I think that John Oliver has gone the last several years without a proper challenger. This
Yes.
year, The Daily Show has really stepped up. It is nominated in writing, directing, editing. John Oliver has 2 nominations in editing. The Daily Show has 1 nomination, but that nomination is really impressive because for some reason they submitted 8 times in the category. So that they're able to overcome that vote split speaks to a level of support. Last Week Tonight has a couple nominations that The Daily Show doesn't have, but they're in categories like Original Song, where The Daily Show did not even submit. The only nomination that Last Week Tonight definitely got over The Daily Show was for technical direction, which is not really a big deal. That's not going to decide. in hindsight with statistics, what was going to win the Emmy. I think that right now there is this call to support Black art. And I think that the industry really wants to, put their money where their mouth is in some way. And in categories like drama series, comedy series, where you've got, all these white people on screen in Succession and Ozark and Schitt's Creek and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, I think it might be kind of hard to get the Emmy voters to make a big leap in those categories. But in a category that I feel like they don't care about, like variety talk series, where I feel like they don't really think about what they're voting for, they're just like, okay, like I generally like this show, so I'll keep voting for it for the next 10 years. I feel like that has the potential to, for them to make a different decision with the right prompt. I was looking through the acting nominees, and I noticed that in the categories that are presented at the main telecast, we have twice as many Black nominees as last year. But if you look at the creative arts categories, we have 3 times as many as last year, and they actually make up the majority of the nominees. So I think we're seeing where, at least in the actors branch, they want to support the movement, but it's hard for them to ignore their actual favorite shows. So I think we'll see something similar play out where maybe we won't see this support manifest in the marquee categories, but giving a win to Trevor Noah, who might win anyway, just because of what he's doing during these times and all the support that he demonstrably has from the nominations. I feel like this can happen.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's very reflective of the nominees that we got, where, even, they included a lot of Black actors in newer shows, but then they also went back to many actors that maybe we thought that they would abandon, people like Samir Wiley and Laverne Cox getting in again, and Jeffrey Wright and Giancarlo Esposito, many of them even over fellow co-stars in their category who many were predicting more so, people like, Ann Dowd and Jonathan Banks. So yeah, I do think that will at least be reflective in a few categories with wins, hopefully.
Luca, do you have any final thoughts?
I also just think that Trevor Noah, he's just been building up goodwill for so many years now, and I just think this is his year. Yes, the circumstances, I would assume, will also factor into this, but I just think his commentary throughout this pandemic and his political commentary has been so incredible and so vital, and has become such a talking point that I think he would also just win this on merit. I think this is just his time, and again, if there's any year that he'll be able to prevail, it has to be this one.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching out for the creative arts, where we'll see categories like writing and editing, where we have a face-off between these two shows. But I might also just ignore the results of those because, for example, the acting branch, which is huge, does not have a creative arts category for, The Daily Show versus last week's night. So